a troublemaker. I've been a late night player. I've been broke, it's a joke. I've been a money maker. I've been a record breaker, taking credit as an educator. I've been known to spit the flows and make it shaky, shaky thing. Popping, locking, stopping, let it hang. Watch us as we drop this hip hop, it's like it stings. We make the whole room drop and everybody sing. We want the funk. We gotta have that funk. We kick it old school. We think we're so cool. We take it back to the past. We gonna act a fool. Enough jumps, the middle finger make my yeah.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Sports Buzz, the Fan-atical View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio, Comcast Cable, Channel 23, downtown Danbury, Connecticut, on this mid-month, February 15th, 2/15, as February ticks away. It'll soon be March. Baseball players are already reporting to spring training. We can put this winter behind us, get some more fresh air, start opening the windows. You know, it could be nice. Feeling that lull, this late midwinter lull. It's kind of hard to get some energy when it's always dreary and cloudy and rainy and snowy and all that stuff. But anyways, we are here in downtown Danbury, Connecticut, and we are live until 7 o'clock. 203-792-4101 is the number if you would like to call in and say hello and talk to us about whatever's on your mind. My right-hand man is here, Mr. Bob Broad Jr., so let's say hello to Bob.
Hi, Scott.
How's it going over there, Bob?
Good, and you?
Pretty good. We still haven't gotten quite used to the new setup with these new cameras. Bob used to sit on a stool and actually work a camera behind
now
as the show went on.
A little more, it's a little
now,
more
you know,
roomy.
the cameras kind of run themselves, and Bob's just kind of in a lounge chair over there. It's like his living room behind the set, just chatting away with me. Bob Show Spotlight on Tuesday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 12. Our director extraordinaire, Mr. Mike Toohey, is here. Expose Cinema is his show, Friday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 1. We were in the other night doing a taping of his show. Now, you know, Bob, I remember the good old days when I first started Mike's show. It was a lot of variety on the show,
right.
A lot of video clips. Now it's just all Trump all the time. If you want to know what's going on in politics.
Oh, yeah?
Well, it is the topic that just keeps on giving, you know.
Yeah.
Every week we got to address something. But I don't know, Mike, has he got plans to do his Oscars, or not his Oscars, his Olivers?
His Olivers, when
That'd be a nice change of pace. What's the deal? Are we going to do any Olivers? I'm getting ready to do a couple tapings, as a matter of fact, with our old friend, the evil director,
Mr.
Kevin Gallagher. His show, Time Out with Kevin Gallagher, I think. Paging Kevin Gallagher, you might want to let me know. When are we doing those tapings, Kevin? Are you out there? You want to confirm with me on any dates? I think next Wednesday and the Wednesday after that we're taping, so maybe the shows are airing a week from Friday and then 2 weeks from Friday. I don't know. We're doing 2 parts, that's all I know. And it'll be right here on Comcast, Channel 23.
All right.
All right. It is just about the NBA All-Star break weekend, so the NFL obviously is all done with. It's a good time to fully invest ourselves into the other wide, wild world of sports events, and we'll start with the NBA. The trade deadline was last week, and the All-Star break is this weekend. There's only 23 games left after the break, Bob. Which is the fewest amount of games ever after a break.
That's an odd number, and it's also like an awful lot less than.
It's not really the midpoint of the season when you got 82 games and only 23 left.
So why would they
wait? I'm no mathematician, but that's not the midpoint.
Why did they wait so far?
I don't know. They've done crazy things with the schedule this year, and I don't know how. I think it's somewhat of has affected the Celtics. Remember, I complained early, and I never really got to the full story. You know, they had the most aggressive schedule of any team in the NBA.
Right.
They played more games than anybody through the beginning of January because they had that game in London.
Right.
And they played that one game in London, which set them up to play one game in London over a course of 10 days. So they had to have all these games played before that trip to accommodate for the fact that they were going to have all those travel days off from traveling to London. And since that point, Bob, they have come back, and remember how hot they were early in the year. They came back from that trip, lost 5 of 6, and then they won 4 in a row, and then they've lost 4 of 5. So 6-10 since that trip to London, and they really have stumbled into the break this past week and a half, losing to Toronto. They did come up with that overtime win against the Wizards, but they lost to the Pacers, and then they got crushed at home by the Cavaliers. They backed that up with just a really ridiculous loss last night to the Clippers. Old friend Avery Bradley, who was part of the trade.
Must be jet lag.
I get it. That's a long time to be jet lagged. They seem to be, have responded better early in the year when they didn't have many days off and they were playing every other day. Remember, the NBA started the season this year 2 weeks earlier than it ever has.
Right.
Because they wanted to avoid the back-to-backs and the 3 games in 4 nights. And of course, the Celtics then proceeded to have a back-to-back on opening night and second night of the season and played 3 games in 4 nights in the first week.
Right.
After they put out this proclamation that they were getting rid of that.
Yep.
And I was trying to figure out what was going on with the Celtics' aggressive schedule to start the season, and then I finally figured it out that it was the London game. And now since then, they really have been not playing well. They've had some injuries as well. Guys have been in and out of the lineup. And especially lately, they really seem to be suffering because their defense is just crumbling. They're the number 1 defense in the league, but they are starting to really wilt on the defensive end. And Marcus Smart, who was not smart when he lacerated his hand by punching a picture frame in a hotel because he was disappointed or upset over some pictures that a lady friend was posting on Instagram.
Oh, great.
And he has missed 11, 12 games since then. He'll be back right after the break, but he was out. Irving missed some games. Some of the other guys missed some games as well. So, they didn't make any trades. They did sign big man Greg Monroe, formerly of the Pistons. That's going to help them down the stretch. But they got to get it back together because they are just playing terrible. They have fallen into second place. Toronto's won 7 in a row. And Toronto is now 41-16. The Celtics are 40-19. Cavaliers, and we'll get to them blowing up their team in a minute. They are right behind everybody at 34-22. So the Celtics still 3 games up on them for the 2nd seed over the 3rd seed. But how about what the Cavs did on the trade deadline?
They just had the fire sale and just got rid of the whole team.
Wow. That trade for Kyrie Irving that brought them Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder. Well, both those guys don't play in Cleveland anymore.
No.
They traded IT, they traded Crowder, they traded D. Rose, they traded Bron's old friend Dwayne Wade back to the Heat. Channing Frye, former, I think he played with the Knicks at one point.
Yep.
Or no, and Shumpert played with the Knicks. They traded those guys. So what, 6 guys they got out? And they brought in who everybody now all of a sudden thinks are these all-world beaters. I mean, they won a couple since the trade, including beating up on the Celtics. We'll see how it goes as everybody gets tape on these guys and figures out what they're going to do. But if you listen to everybody in the sports media, you'd think that these guys are future Hall of Famers. Larry Nance Jr., Rodney Hood, Jordan Clarkson.
I'm not familiar.
Have you heard of any? Well, you probably heard of Larry Nance Jr. Just because of his dad was a famous player. These guys are young and athletic and long, and they can shoot the 3. But as everybody figures out what the new system is in Cleveland, I got a feeling that this team's not going to be that good.
So where does Sir Brongon go? Out.
Well, I think that's a trade or set it up for him to leave. Yeah. I think probably no matter what happens, he's going to leave Cleveland again anyways. Who knows?
And then where does he go?
I don't know. I mean, he's got 2 homes in Los Angeles, but
he fit right in with Kobe.
Yeah, I mean, he could be the next guy taking the place of Kobe. So, I mean, I have no idea where he's going to go. But it's a crazy situation where a team, that's been to the finals 3 years in a row just blows everything up. Kyrie Irving left first. Then they made the trades, brought in guys for him, and now they're all gone. He brought in the other veterans and his old friend Wade. He shipped him out.
Right.
And, just pretty nuts what they did. But they're 34-22. The Wizards, with no John Wall, continue to play pretty well. 7-3 in their last 10, 33-24. The Bucks, since the firing of Jason Kidd, have played much better, 32-24. Pacers 33-25. Sixers 30-25. The Heat at 30-28. And the Pistons, who traded Avery Bradley, former Celtic, out to the Clippers, they're 28-29 in the 9th seed, and they are out. Of course, we didn't get to it last week as poor Zingis. The Knicks are in poor Zingis land as he went down with that terrible ACL injury after he threw down the big dunk against the Bucks, as a matter of fact, and landed awkwardly, blew out his knee, and that's it for the Knicks, who were reeling to begin with anyways.
Oh, yeah.
And we see the player reactions as they couldn't believe poor Zingis, KP. I guess that means unicorns are fragile, Bob.
Oh,
I mean, we talked about how he's had a hard time standing on the court to begin with nagging injuries, but now a serious injury is going to put him out for, upwards of a year.
Oh, yeah. I know how it is.
Yeah, so
been there, done that.
tough time for the Knicks as they fall prey to the injury bug. I want to mention, let's just run through what's happening in the West. Rockets are actually ahead of the Warriors, 44-13. Warriors 44-14. Spurs, Timberwolves playing well. Thunder, Blazers, Nuggets all playing well, and the New Orleans Pelicans at 31-26. So all 8 teams out west above 500. If you remember the last 2 years, the battle for the 8th seed went down to teams that were below 500. Clippers at 30-26 coming on since the trade for Bradley and that trade that sent Blake Griffin out to the Pistons. And Utah as well. After trading Hayward to the Celtics this year, you thought they would be down, but they are 30-28 playing well. So we'll see what happens with them. They picked up, I think, Crowder in one of those trades. So he could fit in, good gritty player to fit in with them. So some interesting things going on with the NBA playoff races in the East and West, especially seeding. And the Celtics really got to gear it up because some of these other teams like the Pacers, the Bucks, are playing better. The Sixers playing better. And, with this trade with the Cavs, who knows how that's going to affect them. But the Celtics could be in danger of going from being the top team in the East to fighting for a top 4 seed if they don't get their act together after the break. We'll find out. We'll mention some college basketball. UConn is non-competitive.
No, it's
5-7 in conference, 12-13 below 500. So in both conference and overall, losers of 6 of 8, crushed by Wichita State 95-74 in their last game. Wichita State in their first league in the AAC is 9-3 in conference, 19-5, tied with Houston for second. Cincinnati is the top team, and Cincinnati is ranked 5th at 23-2 nationally. UConn is home, as a matter of fact, tonight against Tulsa, who is in 4th place in the AAC at 7-5, 14-10 overall. The top 25, how about that? Virginia becomes number 1 for the first time since Ralph Sampson days, about 35 years. 24-2 they are, even though they lost this weekend, but everybody else was kind of losing as well. So they're number 1. Michigan State 25-3. Villanova, who's lost 3 games lately, including to St. John's, who's red hot all of a sudden.
St. John's been doing really well.
Who beat Duke and Villanova in back-to-back games and now have won 4 in a row. So that's good for the Johnnies. Xavier and Cincinnati, the 2 Ohio rivals, at 24-3 and 23-2, round out the top 5. Purdue, Texas Tech, Ohio State, Gonzaga, Auburn round out the top 10. Clemson, Duke, Kansas, North Carolina, who beat Duke as well, are rounding out the top 15. So some interesting stuff going on with college basketball. But, it seems like it's wide open, Bob. Most people are claiming no clear-cut favorite to be the dominant team this year. When you got teams like Auburn in the top 10. And, how does Bruce Pearl have a job still? He was part of that FBI probe. He was fired before from Tennessee for all his other stuff that he did. Yet he's still coaching. We know Rick Pitino's out. Louisville's playing with no sanctions. UConn as well is dealing with investigation for improper recruiting. We know that North Carolina, is the defending national champion, went to the Final Four 2 years in a row, all while they were being investigated for the last 4 years. They finished that investigation and they decided, well, we did find out that they ran a completely fraudulent education program for the athletes for the past, 15 years? But we're not going to hand out any sanctions at all, no punishments whatsoever. Meanwhile, you got other teams that get punishments. I mean, SMU recently was banned from postseason play. We know UConn in recent years as well for like minor recruiting infractions. Meanwhile, you got a program like North Carolina run a fake class setup for their athletes, and nothing comes down. Louisville is dealing with all this stuff that the FBI had to get investigated with because they were getting money for players to come play, huge dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing coming down on them yet. Bruce Pearl is still coaching Auburn, who's top 10 team all of a sudden right now.
Right.
It really makes it hard to get into all things college football and basketball. I have a hard time with it all. We know about all the teams that changed conferences, and there's no allegiance to ties from dating way back. The Big East isn't the Big East anymore.
Right.
So all that stuff that goes on, and yeah, it's crazy. But the basketball does seem to be wide open. Virginia playing great, but we know they usually have offensive struggles, and then the big dance that comes back to haunt them. But maybe this will be the year they break through. They are the number one right now. First time since Ralph Sampson. NHL, the Bruins remain the hottest team in hockey.
They do.
22-4 since mid-December, Bob. An unbelievable run by the Bruins. They still remain 1 point behind Tampa. That's how bad the Bruins' start was. They've had to climb all the way back, but they're 78 points, second place, 79 for Tampa. Toronto has played well and remained right behind them as well, 75 points. So the Bruins, catching Tampa, but Toronto remains right behind them. So the Bruins have to keep up that pace. In the Metro, it sounds like it's the Caps at 71, and the Penguins have recovered from their bad start at 68. Flyers were terrible early, Bob. How about them have moved all the way into third place at 66? Devils now outside of the safe zone of that top three at 64. Carolina, the last wild card, at 63. And the Islanders at 60. And your Rangers remain last in the Metro, but only 4 points out of the wild card at 59. They broke that 4-game losing streak by winning 2, but they did lose their last game. So the Rangers still trying to get it together and keep it together and get back into that playoff picture, but they have not been playing great since New Year's Day.
Mike's here.
And McFadden has walked in, so good to know that Mike is in the house. How about out west? I'm not going to get into it completely.
Okay.
But I do need to mention, Bob, the Vegas Knights. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. They are the top seed in the West right now, and they have been pretty much all season long. The expansion team in Vegas is 78 points.
Wow.
Nashville at 77. Remember, they made it through the playoffs last year into the finals. Winnipeg 75 and St. Louis 72 are the top 4 out west. So I just wanted to mention that part of the standings in the NHL. All right, Bob, are you into the Winter Olympics?
A little.
Can you say more than that while I take a sip?
Not very much, but how's that?
Okay. Come on, Bob. How long have we been doing the show? When the glass goes up and I ask you a question, filibuster. Say something. All right, so the Winter Olympics are underway. Obviously, Friday night was the opening ceremonies.
Right.
Let's run through the medal count. Norway leads it all with 17 and 6 golds. Germany has the most golds at 9, but 15 medals overall. The Netherlands with 12 and 5 golds. Canada is having actually more than the Netherlands at 13. Canada's
been
really doing well with 4 golds. USA at 8 medals overall and 5 golds. Japan with 7. France and Austria with 6. Italy and the athletes representing Russia, although Team Russia has been banned.
Right.
We'll get to that in a second, with 5. Australia, interesting that Australia doing some damage with 3 medals in the Winter Olympics. Don't think of them as a winter sport kind of place, but they are tied with Finland with 3. South Korea, the host nation, China, Slovakia, Czech Republic, and Switzerland with 2 medals. Slovenia, Kazakhstan, and Spain, another warm weather destination with 1 medal. That's your medal standings and your medal count. All right, so Bob.
I watched some of the hockey and
hockey's going on. The USA men not doing great. The women lost to Canada, although they had won their first 2. But the question you have to ask right now, did the USA create snowboarding just so they could get gold medals in the Winter Olympics? Because 4 of the 5 golds that Team USA has right now are in snowboarding.
Yeah, and that's what I was watching the other night. It was
Shaun White, the tomato can, he got his again, maybe in his last one. The new young gun. Remember, Shaun White burst on the scene years ago as a young guy. The new young snowboarder is this guy, Red Gerard, 17 years old. Got it done. He was pretty exciting. He looked like
I saw some very interesting spins and stuff. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, there was controversy because you saw early in this week they had to cancel or postpone the skiing, the downhill and the slaloms, but they did not postpone the snowboarding, and it was very dangerous conditions with high winds and the snowboarding. There's somebody from Westport, I believe, competing, and they were very disappointed because they felt like everybody had to curb what they were doing with their events. They couldn't go all out because it was really bad conditions on those first nights. But they did start with the downhill and the giant slalom, and the American Michaela Schifrin won the giant slalom last night. That was tremendous. She goes tonight again. We'll see what happens with her as she was gunning for 5. I think she has already pulled out of 1 event, so she won't be able to get 5 golds, but she was tremendous. Really outspoken and candid interview. If you saw her interview, this is she won gold, I believe, in one of her events last year. She's been trying to up her GS game, as she said. But it was interesting to hear her talk, Bob, as she has gotten a little bit older and had more success. She said she's had to deal with more anxiety than she did when she was younger because she feels the pressure of being so good and being so motivated to be the top. She's dealt with anxiety and nauseous feelings before her events in recent years, but she seems to have settled that down. And she burst onto the scene last night in her first event with gold in the giant slalom, so that was tremendous for her. USA got their first medal. It was a silver in the luge event. Men's single, first time ever USA got a luge event. Chris Madser got that done. Figure skating team event the other night got bronze. That was good. Last night, if you saw the German couple come from, I believe they were outside medal position after their first skate, and then they went to their second skate, and they put down just an unbelievable performance. I think they got the highest score ever in Olympic competition, and they vaulted all the way to the top and won the gold, so that was a pretty impressive performance. The other night in that team competition, did you see the Russian girl who was 15 years old just blow away the competition? She came out and I thought, okay, this is going to be nice to see. This is probably going to be like the future of Russian skating. She'll do something good. We'll see what she does. She proceeds to just blow down a flawless performance and get the top score in that particular of the team event. All right, this is my question about the Russians competing, Bob. We know Team Russia was banned for the unbelievable controversy with them orchestrating a doping situation in the last Olympics that took place in Russia, where they were sneaking into the rooms where the blood samples were being held, creeping through the ceiling and removing ceiling tiles and getting their blood samples out. It was completely orchestrated by everybody in the higher up situation. It wasn't just a matter of they caught athletes doping. This was orchestrated by team officials, the doctors, the people that were taking the blood test, everything. So the team got banned, rightly so. Then they made a provision to allow for athletes who now are clean, apparently, to compete, but not for Team Russia, but they're athletes from Russia competing under the Olympic banner itself. Right. So if that is the case, and they are competing in essence individually as their own entities, why are they competing in team events? Like, why is there a Team Russia in hockey or in any of these other team events, like the figure skating team event the other night? Why was there, a team representing these Russian athletes if there is no Team Russia? I think they should have made it that they could only compete in individual events, and that was it. So I've been a little bit confused by how they could compete when there is no Team Russia. They had to, there should have been a bigger punishment, I think, where they said, we're going to allow this provision for the individuals to come in, but there can be no team events whatsoever. It has to be all individual events. But they have allowed for it to happen. So I don't know really how that works out. All right, I did want to mention soccer. Speaking of international events, the Champions League round of 16 got underway this week, and there were some pretty good games. There was a couple blowouts as well. Liverpool and Man City dominated their two games, but Juventus started it off scoring 2 goals, including the fastest goal ever in Champions League history, 72 seconds in. And the second goal, at about the 8-minute mark, they were at home up 2-0 against Tottenham. They ended up having to settle for a 2-2 draw, which does not bode well for them going forward in the second leg of this competition to try to get out of the round of 16. So my Italian team, Juventus, in trouble as they'll head to Wembley Stadium to try to get forward and out into the quarterfinals. Real Madrid in the matchup everybody was waiting for against PSG, the team from Paris that now features Neymar, who bolted from Barcelona to Paris. That game was tight for a while. PSG scored the first goal of the game. We're up 1-0. They was tied 1-1 late, and Real Madrid got 2 goals. I thought the officiating in that game was questionable, and that helped Real Madrid take a 3-1 lead, which is good, or 3-1 score, and that's going to really hurt PSG in that game they play at home in the second leg. And the game that other Spain fans will be looking for in the big game next week is Barcelona versus Chelsea. So keep your eye on that if you're into international events and into soccer, getting yourself geared up for the World Cup, which is this summer. We got Daytona coming up
next week.
And spring training is beginning, so we'll start to get into those sort of things. I might have a work thing next week, so I'm not sure if we will be here.
Okay.
But hopefully we'll be, and the week after that, looks like we will be back for sure. But we will see how it goes, and we'll see what this medal count continues to do in the Olympics as it goes forward. So thanks for tuning in.
And
we will see you next time.